All right, guys. Arsenal and Liverpool have just played out one of the best, almost dramatic Premier League games you're going to see in a long time, I think. So obviously going into this game, you've got Arsenal going for the title, a fair few points ahead of Man City, and wanting to maintain their lead over City, knowing that they have to play them and that City have a game in hand as well. So, you know, there's a lot riding on this, and this is a fixture that Arsenal have done appallingly in previous 5-6 years. I think they've lost all of their last 6 games in the league at Anfield by 2 or more goals. So that's not a very good record. And when Arsenal took a 2-goal lead through Gabriel Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus, the first goal coming from what I believe is just poor defending from Liverpool, firstly. Robertson not getting tight enough to Saka, and then making the slip, Saka managing to cut inside and have space to run into. And then it's almost just like panic stations for Liverpool's defence, because the midfield are too slow to get back. Fabinho is nowhere to be seen. Curtis Jones and Henderson are forwards trying to keep Arsenal in their own half. But the problem is there's half the team trying to do one thing and half the team trying to do another. So when you play like that, as Liverpool are, it's you know, just impossible to keep a well-oiled, disciplined, and, you know, maintain a structured shape, if that makes sense. So it's easy for Arsenal to find spaces for players like Saka and Martinelli. And in this instance, it's Ødegaard who tries to play a ball through. And Van Dijk, unfortunately, plays it right into the path of Martinelli, who is able to just stab it past Alisson before Robertson can get to him. And that made it 1-0. And there was just no intensity for Liverpool with Liverpool's play in the first, I'd say, half an hour of the game, which is around the point that Gabriel Jesus doubled Arsenal's lead. This time it's a ball over the top. And I think a lot of people criticised Alexander-Arnold heavily for it. But I'm not going to be overly critical of him, because, again, I just don't think there was enough pressure on the initial ball play to Martinelli. So Konate has to come over, and that leaves Jesus and Van Dijk pretty much alone in the box. And Martinelli plays an inch-perfect cross and falls right on Jesus' head. And it's not the hardest finish ever for Jesus to make it 2-0. And at that point, you're thinking, right, Arsenal look a different side to what they've looked in previous years at Anfield. And that, you know, that you'd think they are going to hold on just because of Liverpool's lack of fighting spirit at times this year. But the thing is, you're at Anfield. The one thing you don't want to do at Anfield is rile the crowd up. This happened in the game at Anfield last year in November 2021. It was 0-0, half an hour played, and Mikel Arteta and Jurgen Klopp get into an argument. That gets the fans going. Liverpool take a 1-goal lead that eventually turns into 4. This year, it was Granit Xhaka. Granit Xhaka goes into a tackle. I think it might have been with Konate, which he didn't need to go into. It was just an aggressive challenge that didn't need to be made, because all Arsenal needed to do is keep cool heads, see the game out until half-time at least anyway, and then Arteta can say what he wants to say. But what happens is, because of that, Alexander-Arnold gets involved. You know, he's a Scouse lad. He's passionate about his team, and he's not going to be one to just let the opposition players walk all over his teammates. That sort of player. So they get involved in a bit of a spat. The crowd get going. Oh, Liverpool pull one back before half time, and yeah, it's a well-worked goal, I would say. It had an element of luck to it, with Henderson stretching to get on the end of the shot, because it wasn't quite a perfect pullback from Jota into Henderson, but it was good enough. And fortunately, Salah's there at the back post to tap it in. Salah had, well, by the end of this game, I reckon 3 or 4 good chances to score another at least in this game. There's no way Salah should have only scored 1 goal in this game, I don't think. And before we get into like analysing the second half, I think the half-time incident is absolutely ludicrous, to be honest. I've never seen anything like it in my, time of watching football. Well, at the professional level anyway. Sunday League, that's a different story. But Robertson goes over to the linesman to complain about a decision. Now, that's nothing out of the ordinary. If a team's losing at half time, they're fighting to get back into the game. Robertson wants an answer. Robertson's a player who is always trying to get any sort of advantage he can get over his teammates. And I think that's to be admired, to be honest, more than anything, because it's annoying when you're an opposition fan. I'm a Liverpool fan, obviously. I might be a bit biased in saying this, but I think as much as I find it annoying when opposition teams' players, go up to referees, get in their faces, try and get any sort of advantage they can get. And Robertson's just one of them. And in the end, it's going to do you good. If you can get away with it, then doing it is going to be an advantage. The linesman clearly raises an elbow to Robertson's facial area. Robertson claims it hits him on the chin. But it's absolutely ridiculous, and I think the linesman, I can't remember what his name is, it was Constantine something, he's going to be in big trouble. I'd be surprised, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't, partake in any sort of officiating for the rest of the season or something like that, given what happened to Mitrovic a few weeks ago in that Man United game in the FA Cup. So I think the officials should be held to the same standards as the players. The FA have been constantly going on about how Mitrovic should have an extended ban. Well, I think that's got to be the same case for the linesman. You can't treat Premier League officials any different to Premier League players, I don't think. If anything, they should be held to higher standards because, they have to undergo serious testing like at the start of every season to make sure they're fit to be a referee. Players don't have to do that. So, anyway, at the end of that second half, Liverpool win a penalty, and it's a clumsy move by Rob Holding to bring down Jota like that. The best thing for Holding to do would have been to hold back, ironically, just make sure that Jota doesn't have a clear shot on goal once he does take a touch. So it was poor from Holding, but not as poor as Salah's penalty. Salah took his last penalty, the only penalty he's taken in the last year in the Premier League, against Bournemouth, and missed the target. The one thing you cannot do if you miss the target in your last penalty is miss the target again. Salah does this. Now, it's just ridiculous. You can't miss the penalty. I as a fan, I don't want to see Salah taking penalties anymore because Salah used to have a way that you could guarantee before you even took the penalty, how he's going to take it. He's going to hit it with all the power he can, and he's going to make sure it's on target. All of a sudden this season, he's decided he's going to try and place it. But Salah, for the amount of goals he does score for Liverpool, and it is a phenomenal amount, I think he's on about 180 now for Liverpool over the course of 6 years, which is, on average 30 a season. For someone who scores that many goals, he's not a great finisher. He's misses a lot of easy chances. And that's nothing new. That's a criticism people have had of him for a long time now. But he's still a great player. But when you're a player like that, he had it right with his penalties. The way to take them for him, because he's not a great finisher, is simply just hit them as hard as you can and hope that the keeper doesn't save it. Salah had a brilliant record at scoring penalties in the Premier League before he decided to change his method of taking penalties. He needs to go back to it if he is to stay on penalties. It wouldn't surprise me if Klopp decides that Fabinho's on them from now on. But yeah, it was just a poor penalty. And after that, Liverpool just seemed to lose a bit of momentum. But the problem Arsenal had was that they weren't really able to take advantage of this. They had a couple of times with about 20 minutes to go where they were able to get in behind Liverpool, but they never really committed enough bodies forward. Like in the first half, you were seeing, I would say, 5 players going forward each time they tried to get forward. You'd have the front 3, Ødegaard, and probably Xhaka or possibly Zinchenko going forward. But you didn't see this at all in the second half. It was usually 1 or 2 of them. And what that meant was Liverpool weren't getting outnumbered at the back. So Konate and Van Dijk, they were sort of comfortable with it. There were only a couple of times where Liverpool looked like they were in serious trouble. In fact, the closest Arsenal came to scoring in the second half was actually when Gabriel had a free header at the corner, but he just put it straight at Alisson. Liverpool made a few substitutions, bringing on Nunez, Thiago, but the one who really changed the game was Bobby Firmino. And that's not just because he scored the equaliser, but it's because he came onto the pitch and he started doing something that Liverpool had stopped doing midway through the second half. With about 15 minutes to go, Firmino comes on, and for the last 10 minutes, all that had been happening with Liverpool is just passing it around, no real attempt to risk making a dangerous pass into the area. Pretty much anyone other than Trent Alexander-Arnold was hesitant to play a pass through to a forward player and play them in on goal. But as soon as Firmino came on the pitch, that all changed, and Liverpool started getting into dangerous areas again. Arsenal, they were making defensive substitutions, you know, as you would with 20 minutes to go in a game like this when it's so tight, you're away from home, and it nearly paid off. But the one thing Arsenal didn't do well enough, I've already mentioned it, is getting enough players forward, and there was also a lot of time wasting going on throughout both halves as soon as Arsenal took the lead, and that's understandable. It'll have been something Mikel Arteta mentioned to them before the game. If we take the lead, you know, make sure we have breaks in play every now and again, so he can sort of tell them what he wants from them in the next period of the game. And that's nothing completely unusual. I've seen Pep Guardiola do it with Man City before. Eddie Howe's done it with Newcastle a few times this season. It's what you expect, especially when a team goes to Anfield. But Firmino comes on, changes the game, and Liverpool are getting in dangerous areas. And the truth is, Liverpool should have scored about 3 in the last 10 minutes of the game. Liverpool should have won this game with the amount of chances they had to score. They got the equaliser through Firmino. It's brilliant play from Alexander-Arnold, nice nutmeg on Zinchenko, and a brilliant ball to the back post where Firmino does a superb cushioned header. But at the end of the game, once Liverpool have gone level, they had to win it. They had Konate's open goal. Now, it's not an easy opportunity for Konate. It's come at him at an awkward height, and even though he just has to get good contact and he scored, it's a hard chance. It's not like it's a bad pass from Van Dijk, because at the end of the day, Van Dijk's aim in that situation has just got to be get the ball across goal so that this player can tap it in. But it's just one of them where 9 times out of 10, that probably falls nicely for Konate, but on this one occasion, it doesn't. And there was also the chance Salah had where he's tried to whip it top corner. It's taken a deflection and Ramsdale makes one of the saves of the season. Ramsdale, this game, was stupendous. He was amazing. There was nothing I felt he could do about either goal. But some of the saves he made, to deny Darwin Nunez as well, when Nunez came off the bench and went through on goal, it was just brilliant. And I think he could be the difference for Arsenal, because he's got this thing like what I'd call it a bit like what Jordan Pickford has for Everton when he's playing for England, where in the big games he doesn't back down. He steps up his game a level. So I think that's something really positive about Aaron Ramsdale that can only help Arsenal and Ramsdale in the future. But yeah, Liverpool, in the end, I think should have really won this game, given that the opportunities they had and, yeah, how the game went, the positions they were able to get into. And I think also for Liverpool, and Jurgen Klopp, this game indicates that there are a certain few players that Liverpool need to be playing for the rest of this season. And Roberto Firmino is definitely one of them. Because the difference he makes when he's on the pitch for Liverpool and Liverpool needs a goal is amazing. So Firmino, his contract's out in the summer. He's probably not going to sign a new one. He said he's not going to, but things can change in football. He needs to be starting every game if Liverpool are to have a minute chance of getting top 4 this season. And when I say minute, I mean probably no chance, but even to push for top 4 at this point. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. It's going to be very difficult from Liverpool from here on. They need it to win today, really, to have a good chance. But for Arsenal, a point isn't a bad result, but it is, given the circumstances they were in, 2-0 up at Anfield. And I thought if that 3rd goal goes in, this could be Arsenal's end of season crumble, potentially, because I don't want to dig into them too much, but it's happened in the past, hasn't it? Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.